and I just want to say, nice haircut, looking fresh.
Oh yeah, it's nice. I'm trying to get it out.
Yeah, I was getting super like shaggy, and then I had to film a music video, and I was like, I need a haircut before this. Yeah.
What kind of music?
Classical crossover. So I'm working on an album. It's called Corner of the Sky. So it's sort of centered around musical theater, but I've also got some like arias in there and some other stuff. Basically, it's like the concept of the album is half of it I recorded pre-T, and then the second half I'm recording in September when I've been on T's year, so I can just sort of warm after a duet in the middle, where I'm singing both parts.
It sounds silly, but I thought you were making the punk album. Based on the vibes you give off, and given the political issues around the world, I thought that. But I know classical punk. I think it's too loud. Like the underlying message is fine. I just think it's too loud.
Yeah.
My kind of music.
Like I like some of the vibes, but like I don't really listen to punk because like a lot of it I'm just like they sound like they're hurting their voices.
Yes.
Yeah. I respect it. Could not do it myself.
I like 60s, 70s, 80s. I like 60s, 70s, 80s music. I also like Sinatra and Sammy Davis and Dino. I like jazz singers. And I also like Broadway tunes. Do you have satellite XM?
Nah, I'm more like a Pandora person.
Oh, okay. Well, it's actually because my mom likes country music, but I also listen to bluegrass, which like banjos and guitars and double bass.
Yeah, I'm not like super knowledgeable.
Oh, I love bluegrass. Also Elvis. I listen to Elvis on the way in and on the way home because on Sunday mornings they play gospel songs. And I don't want to get too deep into that discussion, but my heart belongs to Jesus, and I feel
Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Society. My name is the Reverend Jim Fody. My pronouns are he, him, and I am your assistant sabbatical minister. Today I am joined by my colleague, the Reverend Kelly Asprooth-Jackson, and by the worship team of Drew Collins, Linda Warren, and Stephen Gregorius. We're also joined by those who are volunteering as greeters, ushers, hospitality providers, and lay ministers. And we want to give a special shout out today to those who came at 8:45 this morning to be part of the Anybody Choir. They will be providing today's anthem to us. At First Unitarian Society, we question boldly, listen humbly, grow spiritually, act courageously, and love unapologetically. If you are visiting us today, welcome. We are so very glad you are with us. If you would like more information about First Unitarian Society, please stop by the welcome table located out there in the Commons. We also hope you will be able to stay and join us for coffee hour immediately after the service. That is also in the Commons. For families with young children, the formal classes of our children's religious exploration are in recess for the summer. However, we will continue to offer our message for all ages. There is still child care available for very young children, and school-aged children have the option of supervised play on our playground, along with opportunities for crafts and other activities. And of course, all ages of people are always welcome here in the auditorium throughout the service. For those connecting with us virtually today, welcome. We are glad you are with us as well. And we hope you will be able to take a moment and watch the announcement slides after today's service to learn about upcoming programs and activities. Quick announcement about today: the presentation that I am leading after the service about trends in UU congregations will run from 11:15 to noon and will be held in the room known as Courtyard AB, which is out those doors and a couple of left turns over there. All are welcome to attend. And a quick note about next week, the African American UU history class is on. I got enough registrants. It will be next Saturday morning starting at 9:30. If you'd like to join us, send me an email or talk to me after the service. And now I invite you to join me in a moment of silence to center ourselves and bring ourselves fully into this time as we join together once again in community. Come one, come all. Come with your missing pieces and your extra screws. Come with your hard edges and your soft spots. Come with your bowed heads and upright spines. Come all you flamboyant and drab, verbose and quiet, fidgeting and lethargic.
All you with large vision and tender hearts. All you with small courage and tender fears.
Bring your lisp and your stutter and your song. Bring your gravel and your drawl and your lilt. Bring your anger and your joy and your righteous indignation.
Misfits and conformists and everyone in between, come into this space and be welcome. Bring who you are. Bring where you've traveled. Bring what you long for, and let us worship together. And now I invite you to rise in all the ways that we do and join me in the words of aspiration for the kindling of our chalice. We seek our place in the world and the answers to our heart's deep questions. As we seek, may our hearts be open to unexpected answers. May the light of our chalice remind us that this is a community of warmth, of wisdom, and welcoming of multiple truths. And now I invite you to turn to those around you and greet each other with signs of love and peace.
Well, let's sing our opening hymn, number 188, Come, Come, Whoever You Are. We'll sing through it 4 times. If any of you wants to sing it as a round on your own, go ahead, but the rest of us are just going to sing it 4 times straight through. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come. Now, if there is a third part to this, and I want to teach it to you, the text goes, come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair, though we've broken our vows 1,000 times, come, yet again come. So if you would like to sing a new ostinato, I didn't make it up, but it goes, though we've broken our vows 1,000 times, though we've broken our vows 1,000 times, though we've broken our vows 1,000 times. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come. One more time. Though we've broken our vows 1,000 times, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come.
Okay, I have a story for you this morning. You're welcome to listen to it from the place you're most comfortable. It could be up here, it could be where you are now, it could be your opportunity to move about the cabin. Thank you for joining me. So, here is this story that I have. We get to play an exciting game this morning. We all get to imagine that we are a parent, whether or not we are ourselves parents in this actual moment. And think about the parents in this story who are trying to teach their children a lesson. Not in the like, I'm going to teach you a lesson sort of way, but like they're trying to give a good lesson for their children to learn. And we get to think about what might that lesson be. All right, so let's imagine together. So the story begins with two parents, and they have 4 children. And the parents have decided that they want to teach a particular lesson to these 4 children. I'm not going to tell you what it is because you're going to help me figure it out. But here's what they did to try to teach that lesson. They had each of the children, they gave them a quest, like a journey that they were going to go on. So they were on the older end of childhood, able to travel relatively safely by themselves. They had to go on a long journey to a faraway place where there was a particular pear tree. Has anyone seen a pear tree before? No? But there's one right there. Yeah, my illustrations usually give it away, huh? Yeah. So there you go. If you haven't seen one before, visual aid. So they had to go see a particular pear tree that was very far away. And I said there were 4 children, right? So that they didn't all go together at once. They took turns. So the first child went to see the pear tree, and it was winter, and went all the way there and all the way back. And the second child went to see the pear tree, and it was spring, and they went all the way there and all the way back. The third child went in the summer. They went all the way there. They saw the pear tree. They came all the way back. And then the fourth child went in the fall. Same deal. Okay, so when all 4 children had been to see the pear tree, it was most of a year had gone by at that point, the parents got their children together again, and they said, tell us about this pear tree that you all saw. Now, the child who saw the pear tree in the winter, what do you think they saw? What do you think that was like for them? Snow. Good guess. I associate snow with pears. Probably few pears. Yes, Basil. Bare branches. Bare branches, knobbly and scraggly looking, no leaves, no flowers, no fruit, pretty barren, which means didn't have a lot of stuff on it. Now, the child who saw the tree in the spring, what do we imagine that might have been like? Any thoughts? Yeah, leaves, buds, stuff starting to sprout and flourish, green things. The beginning of something. You know, a pear, like an apple, like I don't think it's all fruit, but a lot of fruit, starts out basically as a flower first and then grows into something that is tasty to eat. So the beginnings of that, right? Now, the third child in the summer, what do you think it was like in the summer? Basil. Lots of leaves, very, very lush, very, yeah, the beginning, now the pear's really starting to form. Maybe they're not quite ready to eat, but you can tell that they're going to be ready to eat. Yes. Oh, the leaves, I think the leaves maybe aren't quite on the ground yet, but that's coming because the fourth child went in the fall. And what happens to trees in the fall? Trees with leaves, usually. That's when the leaves fall off, right? That's why we call it fall, in fact. And that's actually when you get the really ripe, juicy pears, is like right at the turning point from summer to fall. So the child who saw it in the fall really got a very impressive picture and also got to taste some very juicy pears. So, did these four children all see the same tree? Well, yes and no, right? It was the same tree, but it didn't look the same, did it? No, it was very different depending on what time of year they saw it. So that's what they experienced. That's what they saw. That's what they told their parents. Now, what do you think the parents could have been trying to teach them by having them each go see the pear tree in a different season? I want to make a little space for someone who hasn't talked yet. Ray? Oh. Yeah, seeing how to navigate and deal with the different seasons, right? You got to dress warmly in the winter, maybe a little bit lighter in the summer. That's a really creative idea, Ray. Thank you. Basil. We all have different points of view. Okay. Because they all saw different things, and so they have different experiences of the same thing. Yes, Leah. Oh, they were trying to teach a lesson about how pear trees grow. The life cycle of the pear tree. Sure, very crucial information to have. I know you're glad to have it now. Any other thoughts about, not limited to the people in front of me, other thoughts about what the lesson might be from this experience? Change. How things are different over the course of a year or the cycle of a lifetime. And you know what else I notice about this story? Because I think all of these are good answers. This is not a fishing expedition where I'm looking for exactly one right thing. But one other thing that I noticed is that each of them knows a different thing about the pear tree. The child who was there in the winter knows what the pear tree looks like in the winter. The child who was there in the summer knows what the pear tree looks like in the summer. And without talking to each other and hearing from each other, they wouldn't know what the other times of year look like for the pear tree. So by getting together and sharing their information with each other, they come to know more about this thing that they all have one experience of already. So I like all of these answers. Learning about the seasons, learning about the life cycle of the pear tree, learning about change, learning about differences in perspective. And, I also like the idea that it matters that we share our perspectives with each other and benefit from that as well. Thank you so much for listening to my story. So, I know you are well trained to go to your classes when the story is over. In the summer, we do not have formal classes, so now you're going to wheresoever it is that your parents have deemed you should go. Maybe that's being here with them in the sanctuary. Maybe that's going to the child care room. Maybe that's going to play on the playground. Please follow their directions, and let's sing.
Let's sing our children on their way with hymn number 2, Down the Ages We Have Trod. We'll sing all 7 verses, so we should rise in body and or in spirit.
It takes many different moments strung together to make a journey. Even the short ones can have struggles and challenges. Times when we speed on forward and times when we dawdle after. Times to notice, times to remember, times to leave behind, and times to rest. Those can be quite lovely, but in a busy world, we don't always take the opportunity to quiet our bodies and our thoughts all at once, even when we really need to. So now, to encourage and support each other in our own personal practice of respite and pause, let us spend this moment together, resting in reverent quiet. Amen. I once heard a joke, and it went like this. 3 friends set out on a journey together. One was a Jew, one was a Hindu, and one was a Unitarian Universalist. They were traveling by night when a storm came up, and they sought shelter on a lonely, isolated farm where the house and the barn were the only 2 structures for miles around. The farmer was very glad to welcome them in, out of the darkness and the bad weather. But she explained apologetically that her small house had only enough room for 2 guests. One of the travelers would have to spend the night out in the barn with the animals. The Jew spoke up first and volunteered immediately. He left his friends in the guest room and went out to make a bed of straw for himself. But a short time later, there was a knock at their door. Their Jewish friend was back, and he explained apologetically, "I did not realize, but there is a pig in that barn." In the Jewish understanding, a pig is an unclean animal, and it is contrary to my religion to associate myself with one. Now, a little parenthetical here. This seems to me to be a dubious characterization of Judaism. It's true that an observant Jew who follows a kosher diet would take great pains to avoid eating a pig, but sleeping in the same building as one is not the same thing. But of course, it's a joke. We must extend it some creative license. The Hindu answered her friend right away. "A pig is no problem in my religion. Humans and all animals are bound together in the same cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. I will be happy to sleep in the barn." And off she went. But just a little while later, there was another knock at the door. She was back, and she explained apologetically, "I did not realize, but there is a cow in that barn. My religion venerates cows and wishes to see them well taken care of. I am worried that if I spend the night in the barn, I may inadvertently disturb that cow's sleep. And that would be contrary to the teachings of my religion." Another aside here. It is the case that at least many of the varied strands of Hinduism have a special place of honor for cows. Mahatma Gandhi, the peaceful revolutionary who campaigned for the liberation of India, described cow protection as the central fact of Hinduism. Still, does that extend to being especially concerned about disturbing a cow's sleep just by proximity? Again, dubious, but again, creative license. The Unitarian Universalist now spoke. "I will go," they said. "I ought to have volunteered from the start. In my religion, we respect the interdependent web of existence. There is no animal too foul or too sacred for me to share its company." And so they went out into the night to make their bed in the barn. The Jew and the Hindu stayed in the guest room, and they had almost fallen asleep when there came a third knock at the door. It was the pig and the cow. This joke was told to me and to a whole congregation of people I just happened to be in at the time by the Reverend Kim Crawford Harvey, who was one of my supervisors during my ministerial internship, and who is retiring this month from her pulpit at Arlington Street Church in Boston after 35 years of service there. Congratulations, Kim. I tell it to you because it is a story about interreligious relationship and understanding. People with different points of view, nonetheless, being very closely bonded together, caring about each other very deeply. The three friends share a connection and a mutual willingness to sacrifice their own comfort for each other, with no apparent challenge posed by their differing faiths. They actually seem mutually interested in teaching each other and learning from each other about their respective traditions. It's quite a beautiful example of relationship, I think. Full disclosure, this is the rare Unitarian Universalist joke that actually lands for me. Unlike most entries in that genre, I did not see the punchline coming the first time that I heard it. And that last line also hints at an anxiety that we often have. It's the opposite of the inspiring lesson of the three imaginary friends in that joke, that tolerance, inclusivity, the openness to many different perspectives, qualities that I would like to think are hallmarks of our tradition, are also very annoying to actually put into practice. Our congregations organize themselves largely as a series of nested committees, and then we complain about how slow and ineffective committees are. We extol the importance of deep listening, group consultation, collective decision-making, and then lament all of the time and the effort that these things take and how imperfect their results are. Imperfect because they are not exactly what we would have chosen if we didn't have to listen to anyone else. In many of our stories, the central heroic figures are all iconoclasts and free thinkers who win out because they are proven to be right when everyone else around them is wrong. It's harder to tell a story where the hero is the group itself. And here I don't just mean in our tradition, it's a real problem in storytelling generally, especially situated in the culture of the United States, where the brilliance or creativity or strength of some singular person is so often the way that we talk about how change happens, or how great deeds get accomplished, or how art gets made. Let's focus on art here for a more concrete example. Art is usually held up as a very personal accomplishment. Art that is considered valuable or important is generally credited to one person, the painter, the sculptor, the composer. Even in cases where the art is inherently the creation of a group, it is generally the film's director or the play's author to whom a piece is credited. And I'm all for crediting artists and compensating them for their work. But crediting the individual artist alone obscures how much all creation is an iterative process. Human beings create new things by building on what already is or was already tried before. Every act of creativity is embedded in a vast network of influence. All the things that previously inspired or impacted an artist shape each new creation. We change all that we touch because we have been changed by all that touches us. Koheleth, the author to whom the biblical book of Ecclesiastes is credited, wrote that there is nothing new under the sun. That could be read as a jaded world weariness or a recognition of the cyclical nature of the earth that we inhabit. But it also resonates quite well with the simple truth that every supposedly brand new idea or behavior comes from somewhere, growing out of the rich loam of human experience and imagining, right up to the very moment of its first utterance or attempt. It is a fairly well-accepted piece of 1960s pop lore that when the Beatles released their album Revolver, it inspired the Beach Boys to record their own Pet Sounds. And that this, in turn, challenged the Beatles again to come out with Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Frank Lloyd Wright, the architect whose heirloom structure we are the custodians of, might be among the most archetypical of that specifically American brand of difficult genius. But he did not spring fully formed from the Wisconsin prairie like Athena from the mind of Zeus. Among his critical influences were his mentor, Lewis Henry Sullivan, the father of skyscrapers, who pioneered the use of steel frames for building construction. And Sullivan was undoubtedly influenced by William LeBaron Jenney, who literally designed the first skyscraper, and for whom Frank Lloyd Wright's mentor briefly worked. But rather than webs of influence that play out like this over years or decades, I have a specific example here for you that takes place across just a matter of a few days. This story comes from the internet. All of its characters are people sharing words and ideas from behind pseudonyms, so that I have no particular information about the actual people involved, beyond the fact that they were able to write in English and had access to the internet. No one in this story is famous, to the best of my knowledge, nor is any of the output from it yet. But when I came across this magical little exchange, it seemed so beautiful to me. I knew that I had to share it with you. So we begin with a complaint. The first writer tossing their frustrated thought into the open space of the online world, attempting to express a particular sort of melancholy about creativity thwarted, drawing on an example from a recent travel experience. Now, for context, you will need to know that an Airbnb is a system by which you stay in someone else's living space for a fee rather than in a hotel. Or more likely these days, you stay in a space that could be an actual person's actual living space, but instead is maintained as a high turnover income property, specifically so that it can be constantly rented out via the system of Airbnb. You also might want to know that glow-in-the-dark star stickers became a popular decoration for bedroom ceilings, especially for children, beginning sometime in the late 70s or early 80s. I could not find a more specific date for the beginning of that trend, although I remember having such stickers on my own bedroom ceiling at one point. Apparently, their existence can be credited to a single person, a German designer named Marcus Ehring. That is, at least, according to his telling of the story, on the internet. But I promised you a complaint, so here it is, the whole original post. I hate when I can't even write a poem about something because it's too obvious. Like in the Airbnb I was at. I guess it used to be a kid's room because you could see the imprint of one little glow-in-the-dark star that had been missed and painted over in landlord white. Like, that's a poem already. What's the point? You get it. You get the themes. I don't have time to do it justice. Just look at it. It's on the ceiling. By itself, this is an especially contemporary encapsulation of an ancient expression of creative frustration. How can one paint a sunset and do it justice? How can you ever hope to write an ode that could be worthy of your beloved's face? But to some random people on the internet, presumably all strangers to the original author, this instead was read as a challenge. The first person took all the same words in the same order and set them into a structure that would be familiar to most eyes as a poem, merely through the judicious use of the carriage return. Rather than show this to you, I will read you what I mean. Remember, exactly the same words as before. I hate when I can't even write a poem about something because it's too obvious. Like in the Airbnb I was at, I guess it used to be a kid's room, because you could see the imprint of one little glow-in-the-dark star that had been missed and painted over in landlord white. Like that's a poem already. What's the point? You get it. You get the themes. I don't have time to do it justice. So the first voice was an anti-poem, a piece of prose expressing the impossibility of a given poem's creation. The second, the resetting of those words into a poem. And three more iterations followed, each by a different author, each one creating a new poem simply by elimination. They each took that poetically formatted text, and then they blacked out certain words from it, as though they were government censors, redacting sensitive details from some top-secret document. This was the first of these entirely new, entirely different pieces of poetry they created. Just look at it. It's on the ceiling. In a kid's room, you could see one star painted over in landlord white. That's the point. You don't have time to look at the ceiling. Now here's the second one. Write a poem about something too obvious, like a room, one little glow-in-the-dark star painted over. That's the poem, the point. You get to do it justice. Just look. And now here's the third. I can write a poem about something too. I used to be a kid, one little dark star that had been missed and painted over, and that's the point. You get the time to just look at the ceiling. One person had a thought and shared it. Another person responded by building on it, and another, and another, and another. The multiplicity of contributors is what made the beauty happen. And as minor and anonymous as this example is, it actually points towards something that holds true for all human creativity and accomplishment. No invention or achievement or insight ever came just from one person, alone, unto themselves. Because all of us are made up of our webs of interlaced connections and relationships with others. For people of fame or renown, we often think of sharing credit as an act of generosity if they do it voluntarily, and as a loss or a punishment if it is somehow foisted upon them. But when I think of my own personal accomplishments, however little they might be, I only think of the people whom I rightly ought to share them with. Everything that is good and laudable in me should rightly be credited first to my parents, then my mentors and teachers, my brothers and my friends, the congregations I have served, my children, my colleagues, all the people whose lives have shaped me for the better. Only my errors are mine alone. I mentioned Kim Crawford Harvey before, one of the long list of teachers and mentors. For 35 years, the minister of Arlington Street Church. Across the street from that congregation's building, at the corner of Boston's Public Garden, facing out, is a great statue of William Ellery Channing, the father of American Unitarianism, and the minister for whom Arlington Street Church itself was built. Arlington Street is also along the path of and a hub of activity for Boston's Pride Parade. And every year, it is a long-established practice to decorate that statue with all manner of rainbow decorations, beads and feather boas and snappy sunglasses. Thousands of people each year march by that effigy of our spiritual ancestor with his boyish face and billowing pulpit gown. Them celebrating defiantly the truth of their own worthy existence, and him celebrating pride right along with them. Is this a display that the man himself would have approved of? Some of his ideas were progressive for his day, some of his actions and efforts in life quite laudable. He certainly lived in an era when there were men who loved men and women who loved women and folks of a variety of different understandings of their own gender, because it has always been thus. To my knowledge, there is no record of any opinion from him on such matters. But if you heard me speak a few weeks ago about his most famous sermon, you may already know that his track record on outperforming the baseline prejudices of his day was imperfect. In the early 1800s, our movement, the one he helped to foster and shape, was not yet actively inclusive of a diversity of human genders and sexualities in the way that it is today. But it was just a little bit more open to difference and to a diversity of spiritual ideas than most of the religious landscape that surrounded it. And that diversity grew wider and greater over time until 2 centuries or so later, his spiritual descendants would consider it both fabulous and fitting to decorate him every year for Pride. It is the last and perhaps greatest gift of communities, those to which a person may truly belong, that if they are sufficiently open to the possibility of new people and new ideas, different people and different ideas, they may outgrow our own limitations. And even long after we ourselves have gone, perhaps some descendant might in some way redeem some of our mistakes, might feel close enough kinship to us that not even our errors have to be entirely ours alone.
I invite you into this time of giving and receiving, where we give freely and generously to this offering which supports the ongoing work of this community. There are multiple ways to share your gifts this morning. Baskets now being passed here in the auditorium for cash and checks, or as you can see on the screen, you can donate directly from our website, fusmadison.org. You will find our text to give information there as well. We thank you for your generosity and your faith in this life we create together.
Each week we gather, carrying in our hearts the joys and losses of our days. We hold our own pain and celebration together with those of the ones we love. We share these here, knowing that they are held gently in care and in support and in love. One of us asks to light a candle for a very ill and much beloved friend. One of us asks that we light a candle for Audrey Lazanis, longtime member of FUS, who is currently in Oakwood Hospice and is gladly accepting calls and visits. We light a candle to honor the life of Karen Selby, mother of Barry Burden and the grandmother of Samantha Reed Burden, who are members of our FUS community. Karen died on Wednesday at the age of 75 and leaves behind a legacy of much love for her family, her friends, and her beloved cats. A memorial service is being held today in Ohio, and we offer our love and support to the Burden family in this time of grief and remembrance. We light a candle for all those who feel isolated by grief, by chronic pain, by mental illness, and all others who are alone and lonely. To you we extend our compassionate hearts. We light a candle of ongoing lament for the violence which plagues our world. Fervently we yearn for peace here at home and around the globe. And we light a candle for all of those joys and sorrows, hopes and dreams that remain unspoken in the silent sanctuaries of our hearts. I invite you now to turn with me both inward and outward as we enter together into an attitude of meditation and of prayer with these words from Paul Beadle. Spirit of life and love, justice and peace, the spectacle of foolish pride is ever before us in these times. Indeed, pride has seldom looked so foolish in our lifetimes. So many people in positions of public trust and responsibility have lost their authority and our confidence spectacularly, and still they persist in their pride. They lie, they brag, they evade, they lecture, and they seem not to know that this makes matters worse. The example of the humble is also before us. Indeed, humility has seldom looked so wise. So many people of positions of public trust and responsibility who otherwise would not attract our notice have gained authority and our confidence by unspectacularly acting with honor. They persist in seeking truth, being accountable, stepping up to their duties with courage, asking the right questions. And without centering themselves, they seem to know that this matters. Seldom has the contrast between foolish pride and honest humility been set so clearly before us. Come what may, O Spirit of life, may we own enough humility that we never need to be humbled. May we own enough compassion that we are never tempted to humiliate. May we own enough forgiveness that neither the humbled nor the humiliators, who are all so much more, are ever outside the circle of our love. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, so may it be. Amen.
In a moment, we'll sing our closing hymn, Where Do We Come From, number 1003 in the Teal Hymnal. We'll sing it once through with all the repeats as a melody in unison. And then we'll sing it as a round with congregants on my left going first, congregants on my right going second. We'll sing it 2 times through. When you get to the end, since you will end first, you can just sing the last line over and over until we match. Let's rise in body and move in spirit. All together.
Where
Go now in peace. Deeply regard each other. Truly listen to each other. Speak what each of you must speak. Be ready in any moment to disarm your own heart, and always live as if a realm of love had begun. So be it. Blessed be. Amen. And please be at rest for the postlude.